let's get started. I'll just add people in as they arrive. Hope everyone survived the weekend. Barely, just skidding along. Yeah, it's been intense, and I was sprouting last Sunday about it being a lighter week. I think the week might have been, but certainly the weekend, I don't know, the weekend did something else. Yeah, and I suddenly looked out at on the moon on Friday evening and suddenly thought, that looks pretty full. And then Googled to see when the next full moon it was. I thought it was a while to go. I suddenly realized that it must have been this full moon that's been causing all the havoc. Yeah, it certainly seems to have. I was listening to something that Lee Harris posted at the end, towards the end of the last week, and clicked onto his YouTube channel where he spoke about the energies for July, and I actually initially thought he was talking about August, and spent the first 5 minutes quietly swearing about the fact that he was talking about how exhausting it was going to be and how exhausting we all were going to feel. And I suddenly realized he was talking about July, and felt an enormous wave of relief that hopefully in August the exhaustion's going to end. But it certainly has been an intense month. July was an intense month, and yeah, I'm not too sure that August is going to get any easier, but certainly for me, I always find this time of year quite intense. There's a lot of stuff going on energetically with the Lion's Gate that opens up and all of that energy that comes pouring in. And if we look at it as the beginning of a new cosmic or galactic new year, you know, the first few weeks of the new year are always a little bit challenging. We're kind of trying to find our feet. We're trying to work with new energies that are coming in. We're trying to feel our way into the new energy that is emerging. And certainly in this year, 2020 is not turning out to be anything that anyone expected, and we're really having to adapt all the time. Every day is different. There seems to be no stability. And the key here is that the stability needs to be found within ourselves, which can be challenging because at the same time that everything is all kind of upside down and topsy-turvy in the world, so is that outside reflection is a reflection of the internal world that we exist in. So it is challenging for us to be able to find that stability while we are also moving through these waves of transformation and these waves of emotional, I suppose purging is the best word to describe it. I'm always kind of grateful when there's a day or two where things seem to be mildly stable, and I think, okay, well, I can just find my feet and prepare myself for the next wave. And it certainly feels that if I'm looking at what's going on this week and what we're moving into this week, it certainly feels like that's what we're needing to do. Again, we're having to draw ourselves back to focus on our internal life, our internal world. We really are needing to kind of gather and recharge ourselves on an energetic level as well as a physical level. There's been a lot of energy movement, a lot of energy changes. There's a lot of shifts and a lot of releasing that has happened, and it is exceptionally depleting. You know, especially when we don't seem to get those breaks, we don't seem to get the rest that we've used to getting. So we have to almost find new ways of being able to regenerate, recharge, and restore ourselves on an energetic level. And I certainly am looking for those new ways to start. And as soon as I found things that work, I will share them with you all. As I think that it's important that we You know, if we're looking at, we're moving into a new reality, we're moving into a new earth, we're moving into new lives, we need to start finding new ways of doing things, because the old ways are certainly not working in the same way that they have in the past, and they certainly are not doing what they did for us in the past. So when I find these new ways, I will share them. But if anyone else has got any ideas, please share them with us too. Yeah, I mean, it's also, again, this need to rebalance the masculine and feminine. It seems to be a real theme that is coming up all the time. And along with this rebalancing of the masculine and feminine, there's also this need to rebalance ourselves from a soul and an ego perspective. So if we look at the masculine energy as it has been in the last few thousand years, it's been a very patriarchal, misogynistic, controlling, dominating, domineering energy. And we have learned to operate, and I'm noticing that we're all women here today. I'm noticing that we are, oh, there's one, Mike's here. Hi, Mike. Evolved man that you are. We've all learned, as all of us, whether we're male or female, we have learned to work within this old masculine energy. We've learned to work within its structure, within its control, and within its controlling mechanisms. And as a result, it's very difficult for us to work out what is the balance of the masculine and feminine. What is the real true balance? What is the divine balance that is being asked of all of us? We're being called to step into this divine balance, but what actually does it feel like, and what is it? Because we haven't seen it in the world. And we certainly haven't grown up in a world where it exists. So we really are needing to establish these two energies within, I suppose, our soul essence rather than in our ego essence. So if we look at the masculine as it has been dominated by the ego. There's been very little soul that has infiltrated into our masculine structures and forms that have governed the world for so long. So now we're having to inject the soul aspect into that masculine to be able to lift it into a higher state of consciousness. And we're also having to do that with the feminine, because as the feminine has learned to manage herself within the masculine, has learned to suppress herself, has learned to make herself seem helpless and weak and pathetic in order to be accepted by the masculine and embraced by the masculine, because actually at our core, all of us are being wanting and calling for this balance between masculine and feminine. So now this is what this need is that we're being called to answer, is this balance between the masculine and the feminine, but within the soul aspect of ourselves, not the ego. So it does mean that we have to really spend time reflecting on our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, what it is that we're doing and how it is that we're feeling within our lives right now. How are we interacting with the people around us? What is it bringing up in us? What is being awoken in us that we need to adjust, shift, heal, let go of, release? All of these things that are still coming up, because it's definitely not over. This purging of old stuff is not finished yet. There is a sense of completion of one aspect of it as we move in through this full moon tomorrow. There is a feeling of there's a completion of some kind, but we're still in the cycle of clearing and releasing and purging. And I think that's going to be going on for a good few years. But, as we clear more, so we bring to the surface more of our soul essence. We bring more to the surface our soul consciousness and our soul awareness, and bring that as a force of energy into our lives. And I think we've got to look at how do we define what the masculine and feminine is moving forward. Because a lot of a lot of women in the past, in order to survive in the world, have taken on the role of the masculine within themselves. They have become masculine energetically in themselves so that they can operate in the world. So we look at the strong and powerful women that we have. They are not feminine in their energy or in their nature. They are masculine in their feminine, in their energy and in their nature. So we're having to rebalance all of that as well. We've got to actually look at ourselves and say, well, even those women who we look up to, who have been successful, who have achieved so much, who have done so much, are not necessarily in that divine balance that we are needing moving forward. So we have to even scrap all of that stuff. It's like we're on a clean page in a new book, and we have to rewrite everything that we thought that we knew or thought that we understood about the masculine and feminine. And I think it's also, you know, the feeling that I have is this need to surrender our ideas and our concepts and our thoughts and our programming and our patterning around these two energies, so that we can allow ourselves to feel into what is the divine, what is the divine feminine, what is the divine masculine, what does that feel like? We need to know what it feels like before we can start putting words to it. Instead of trying to construct it in our minds, we start to feel it in our hearts, and we allow that to awaken within us. And that means, again, working with the energy of our heart, opening to the energy of our heart, accessing the energy of our heart, and finding our way through the world and through these changes with that, which is challenging because, you know, certainly for myself, there are days I think I have been consciously working on myself for over 20 years. I have been consciously following a path of awakening, and a path of consciousness, and a path of healing, and a path of growth, and I'm so tired. There's a part of me that just wants to put my head down and say, you know what, enough now, enough. And I think that we're all reaching that part and that level of exhaustion of just like, when is it going to end? And that, for me, I kind of feel like, okay, so this feeling, this exhaustion that I have is saying to me, surrender, just drop it all, just let it all go. All the thoughts, all the ideas, all the hopes, all the dreams, all the wishes, everything, just let it all go. Because whatever that is has been constructed by the part of me that was in survival. The part of me that was desperately trying to manage in a world that I did not understand. And now I need to let go and trust that part of me, that bigger part of me, that soul part of me that has lived eons and knows all and has access to all, and let that part of me take over. So I think that the level of exhaustion is that part of me that survived this world, this old world, just wanting to let go. And the beautiful thing about, you know, when you do Indigenous initiations and things, they're quite intense, some of these things. And there's one particular one where you dig your own grave and you get buried alive for a time. And in that process, you let go and you die to your old self and you die to your old life. And when you come out of it, you're reborn. And I'm telling you, I think that is easier than what we're having to go through right now. So if you can, find an Indigenous teacher and ask them to bury you for a night. Come out of it a new person. If I look at things as they stand on an unconscious level for us, there is this new cycle that is opening up on an unconscious level. And what I find so interesting, I was listening to something, I think it was on Instagram Live or one of those things. I was listening to a conversation that someone was having, and they were talking about how, you know, everyone is waking up. They're waking up to what has been happening in the world. They are waking up to the fact that there needs to be change. They're waking up to certain things around themselves, their life, their choices, you know, what they're doing, where they're going, etc. And what this person said was that actually what that waking up means is that their unconscious mind is literally meeting the conscious mind. And in that moment, there's an awakening that happens. And actually, that's what we've been striving to do, is to bring all of these unconscious things to the surface of our conscious mind so that we can deal with them. And when we do that, when we clear our unconscious mind of the negativity and the old patterning and the old programming, when we let go of all of that, then we are able to begin a new cycle of awareness and a new cycle of consciousness that is far more positive and far more supportive of our conscious awareness and our conscious choices, because it's not being that conscious awareness and those conscious choices are not being sabotaged by the hidden stuff in the unconscious mind. So what I'm seeing is that there's been this clearing and purging and releasing of all of the stuff that has been sitting in our unconscious mind. And that is that now we are entering into a new cycle where we are being offered an opportunity to move in a different way with the unconscious and the conscious minds working together. And if we look at the human being, we have 3 levels of consciousness. We have our unconscious mind, we have our conscious mind, and we have our superconscious mind. For me, the superconscious mind is the soul aspect of us that informs the other 2 minds. And when all 3 of those aspects of us are working together, we're able to use that, and I like to see it as a triangle, you know, with the tip as the arrow. We use it as a force to take us forward, as an energy to take us forward in a way that is far more supportive of a sustainable and a sustainable life and a thriving life, rather than a life that is filled with survival. So that's kind of what's happening in our subconscious. At the same time, because the subconscious is being cleared of so much, there are new ideas, new inspirations, new creativity that is being, it's almost like the seeds of that are starting to be planted and are starting to sprout. So you're going to find that your intuition is heightened. You're going to find that at the same time, your dreams are going to be bringing you clearer messages. There's going to be clearer information coming through your intuition and through your unconscious mind that is going to help you to move forward. So really, really allow that time. I'm making an effort to put a piece of paper and a pen next to my bed, because, you know, you wake up in the middle of the night, you remember the dream very, very clearly, and you think there's no ways I'll forget it, and you go back to sleep and you forget it. So I'm making sure that I have a pen and paper next to my bed so that I can keep a note of those things. And even in that moment, just before we drop into sleep, there's often that time where there's insight and information that comes through. And also just before we wake, there are those moments of sleep where the 2 minds are able to connect and communicate. And then, of course, you know, looking at where we are right now, our conscious mind and how things are operating there. Certainly with this full moon, there is focus on it's an Aquarian full moon. And the sun is obviously in Leo. And so we have a portal when these 2 energies come together, Aquarius and Leo. They offer a portal of dramatic transformation. And so we are moving through that as this new moon rises over the next few days. The energy of the full moon and the new moon lasts for 3 days. So it's the day before, the day of, and the day after. So we're in already today, we are in these full moon energies, and it's offering us a moment of profound transformation where we are being given the opportunity to really what's the word? I want to say unstuck. Is that even a word? I've suddenly gone completely blank. Yeah, we want to become free of the ego needs and the ego drives that are continuing to keep us stuck in old ways of being, old ways of thinking, old ways of relating, and old ways of viewing our lives and viewing our world. And you know, I kind of see this in the energy, and I think, oh, how do I explain this without, because as human beings, we understand the complexity of feeling and emotion. But on an energetic level, everything's kind of neutral. So when I tap into the energies, I'm seeing everything from that very high, greater perspective, and everything is neutral. So even bad things have purpose. You know, and then I look at and then the human part of me sees this and says, oh, you know, how do I explain that? Because what I saw when I was tapping into the energy is this idea that the challenges that we face are not necessarily as dramatic as we think they are. That the challenges that we are facing are something that has been created in our mind. And if we can allow ourselves to let go of the constructs that exist in our mind and to surrender those, then we are able to see the expanded perspective or the expanded view of the world and what is happening and what is transpiring and how there is purpose in absolutely everything that is occurring, even in the chaos of a pandemic and the chaos of the financial struggles that people are moving through. And, you know, all of that has purpose, even though we cannot see the bigger picture. We cannot fathom what that bigger picture contains. But that it holds purpose is important to remember. And you know, it's challenging to say that when we know people who are ill, when we know people who are dying, when there is so much fear, when people are losing their jobs, where they literally don't know where they are going to be able to get money to support themselves and their families. I mean, it is a reality. And to be able to say, you know, there is purpose in all of that sounds quite I don't know, glib, and it's not. You know, these times are intense, and there are some dramatic things that are happening to people and in their lives, but the opportunities exist at the same time, and that's what we have to focus on. The things that are seen as challenges and obstacles in our lives are just showing us that this is not where we must be putting our energy. This is not where we need to be moving forward. So we need to let those things go. We need them to fall away. We need to let them go so that the opportunities can come to us. Because what we're doing is holding those obstacles in the way of the opportunities. So we can't see the opportunities, we only see the obstacles. And once we allow those obstacles to fall away, and we allow ourselves to surrender to what is, then we start to see what is left. We start to see the opportunities that are coming towards us. And that's really what we need to be focusing on. And I suppose in that way, maintaining maintaining faith, but also maintaining hope that, you know, there is hope in these dark times. This is not the end of the world, even though people may be thinking it is. It is just a massive transformation and a massive transition. And living in the technology and having the kinds of technology that we have available to us now, we do think things are going to be instant. We do think that we're going to wake up next week and everything's going to be done and dusted and it's all going to be changed and we're going to be able to move on with our lives. But that doesn't really happen. If we look at nature and we look to nature as a teacher, we can see the seasons. There is a season for everything. There's a season where everything grows and everything flourishes. And there's a season where everything seems to be dead. And it's not. It's that there is life building and growing and energy moving, but it's on such a deep level that we cannot see it yet. And my sense is that that's where we are at. We are in the winter of our shift and our transformation, where things are dying. Well, maybe we're not even in the winter. Maybe we're only in the autumn. We're in the autumn when everything is dying. We haven't even hit the winter yet. And we need to remember that, that spring is coming and summer is coming, that it always comes. We are part of a natural cycle of life and a natural cycle of growth. And we need to remember that and hold on to that, even through these tough times. And we also need to look at it. I joke all the time about the fact that I've got a veggie garden. There's probably a few herbs at the moment that have survived my gardening skills. And gardening's really hard. Growing food is really hard. I'm really good at growing plants and flowers and those sort of things, but veggies, I didn't realize it could be so complicated. And I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, well, there I just thought you stuck a few things in the ground, gave it some water, and there it goes, it just grows. No, it doesn't. I've got herbs growing on my kitchen window. And a friend of mine pointed out the one herb is basil, the other one is thyme, and then there's rosemary. The basil is going that way, the thyme and the rosemary are going that way. And she said to me, isn't it so fascinating how the herbs don't like each other? I hadn't even noticed. And I looked at it and they are literally growing away from each other. And I thought, well, it is interesting. The thyme and the rosemary are happy together because you could put those two herbs together. You can cook with them. But basil doesn't really go with rosemary and thyme. And I thought that, it's so fascinating. It's like if we could just look at nature to see how things work, we could start to get a sense of how things need to work in our own lives. We need to look at what works together and what doesn't, and move what doesn't. So I'm having to move my basil outside because he does not like the rosemary and the thyme. Put him in a different place. So we need to remind ourselves that we are in this flow. We are in the cycle of life. I'm glad I'm not the only one. A couple of other people have commenting about growing veggies. Yeah, I had high hopes of having a beautiful veggie garden. I don't. Lorraine, the autumn of transformation is a wonderful way to explain where we are to friends and family struggling with fear and depression. Yes, exactly. And I think if we can just allow it to happen, instead of struggling against it and trying to resist it or trying to remain stubbornly in it, we actually, that autumn will happen with or without our participation. All that we can do is focus on ourselves and look at what are the things that are emerging in our own lives, what are the things that are being reflected in our own lives, where are we being told to let go of things, to allow things to die away, so that when the spring does come, those new things are able to emerge. Anyone else got anything they'd like to share, or any questions about that?
Good morning, Kate, or good afternoon, I guess there. I was thinking the last couple of weeks, I believe that the soul chooses to come in. We made the choice to be here at this transformational time. But the last couple of weeks, I'm thinking it probably all looked like a lot more fun from the other side than here. And so many times I say to myself, what was I thinking? Like, this is hard, you know, and not that I shy away from hard, but this is seemingly endless. You know, at least here, it doesn't seem like it's getting, well, it's not getting better. It's kind of going to hell in a handbasket here. But so I just go, what was I thinking as a soul? This was a great idea.
I like to say we didn't read the fine print. You know, there's always that fine print on the contract that no one ever reads. Definitely, and if I know myself, I never read that fine print. And I have got a saying that I do say to myself, note to soul, we are never doing this one again.
Kate, just one thing. I was going to say thank you for your hint about not getting involved in people's dramas this week. It just seems to have been a week of drama after drama. And then when you say about making sure you look after yourself, it's a very fine line between feeling selfish that you're not actually caring about others who are struggling or having more of a problem than you are. So I'm finding that balance a little bit difficult, to step back, look after me, but not losing awareness of actually the bigger picture of the world and what's going on. How do you balance that, really?
Well, I think you've got to look at it and say, instead of using the term selfish, self-care. Key. I think it's in this time, it's not, how do I explain this? It's not, I think it's the difference between empathy and sympathy, or as we've discussed some point, someone mentioned it a while ago, detached compassion. So we can feel compassion and we can feel empathy towards those that are struggling. But you've also got to look at it as how often do people listen to the advice that we give them? You know, we can see someone's heading for a wall and we can say, please don't, you're going to hurt yourself. It's going to be this. Why can't you see that this would be better for you to? And they keep going and they keep making those choices and they keep hitting that wall, and we pick them up and we help them and we send them on their way, only for them to go back to the same wall and hit it again. And I think it's what I've learned, certainly in years of counseling people, is that individuals have to come to their own understanding of things, their own perception of things. Just because we can see things in a particular way or understand things in a particular way does not mean that they can. They haven't reached that level of awareness yet. And it's not an ego thing, and it's not a I'm better than them thing, you know, because there are things that we are blind to in ourselves that other people can see. And so I think it's more a case of being able to acknowledge where someone is, but recognizing that actually it is not your job and it is not your role to help them, to change them, to make it better for them. If they are suffering, I'm sorry, but they're creating that suffering themselves.
On a level, though, of mental illness is what I'm thinking in particular with my sister. She's struggling big time at the moment, and she's at a point now where she will lose control and need somebody to step in and help, or she hurts herself or something happens. It's that's what I mean about that fine line of you can't reason with somebody who's gone too far, and how much you have to detach, because if you don't, who will? And then you have to rely on a system that isn't necessarily supportive. So
yeah, I totally understand that. Have had similar experiences in my own family, and it's unbelievably hard to know when to step in and when to step back. And I think you've got to decide, are you capable of stepping in? Do you have the strength right now to handle whatever it will require of you? Or do you need to step back because actually you need to look after yourself right now? For me, that's what it is. It's like, am I capable of stepping in right now? Do I have it in me? Am I strong enough? Do I have the capacity right now to step in and help, or do I actually need to step back and allow what needs to happen to happen? It's a tough one.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it is always individually based. Mental illness is challenging for the family more so than others, because we are so emotionally connected to those people, and sometimes the system can be the most detached way of being able to help them. I don't know if that's helped at all, but
No. I need to give it thought, but thank you. Yeah.
I think you need to look at yourself and go, am I capable of stepping in? Do I have the capacity? Because it's a long road. It's not oh, well, this person's going to be sick for the next 2 weeks and I can, make them chicken soup and tuck them up in bed. It takes far more than that, mentally and emotionally, to be able to help.
Okay.
A couple of other people are going through the same thing.
Kate, I have a question when you have a chance.
Yes,
Hi. You were talking about the obstacles and the fact that it's almost like they're coming up to show us that that's in our lives what we need to let go of. But so I've been confused, because it's exactly been like the last almost 2 weeks. It's just been obstacle after obstacle. Some of them emotional, which are completely valid, and I understand them and I get them. And then some of them just sort of mundane, practical obstacles. It's just like one after another. And as you know, I mean, I won't go into it because, but that I've been kind of guided, right, to do a very specific project right now, which really is going to take all of my energy. And part of me kind of, I don't understand. It's like, I don't understand why these obstacles keep coming up, because when you say let them go, I can understand how some of them I can let go of, but then some of them, they just have to be addressed, which takes my time away. And then when my time gets taken away, I get so panicked and frustrated, because I know that I'm meant to be putting all my time and energy into ultimately, God's work, if you want to put it that way. And so part of me started thinking today, well, maybe I should just move out of the city and like lock myself up in a cabin for, I don't know, 6 months to get this work done. But is that really, are we meant to be doing this in amongst everything that is going on? Or are we meant to be isolating? You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you know what I mean.
I do. And again, I think again, you've got to look at what is going to work for you best. For some people, there is a need, I think there is a need for isolation for some, and there's a need for others to be in. But I think it's, again, that balance and that movement of the masculine and feminine energies, withdrawing into the feminine to recharge, to look after ourselves, to do what is necessary to rejuvenate and restore ourselves, and then stepping out, using the masculine back into the world and engaging in that way. So it is this dance of backwards and forwards, in and out in the world. And you've got to find your flow in that way and in that sense. And if you're being drawn too much into the doing of other stuff that is taking you away from, for you, what is most important right now, then you need to look at that stuff. Is it vital? Is it essential? Is it necessary? Or can it not wait? Or can it be delegated to someone else, certainly for the meantime, while you focus on what you're needing to do?
Yeah.
But it's something that you've got to look at. And for me, the constant doing, and it's something that I've had to look at in my life. The constant busyness, the constant doing without rest, is a very masculine way of being, and what we have been programmed in the world to do. To lie around and daydream and whatever is being considered lazy. And so therefore, that is a criticism. To look after ourselves is considered selfish.
No, I hardly do it. I hardly give myself that kind of time. I mean, I do meditations that are constructive and they are ultimately linked into the work I'm doing. They're not actually just meditations, just to daydream, if you will. You know what I'm saying? I never do that. Never. I never have time. So
that's where you've got to look. So the imbalance between the being and the doing.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's the key.
So I've been experiencing that lately too, and I'm seeing myself from a little bit different perspective. So if I share this, it may help someone. It has to do with me being in the flow or aligned with what is, as opposed to my old doing mode of, okay, this is how I'm going to go get that done, blah, 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 and then bam, wall, because I'm not flowing with what is. My ego is deciding, well, this is the way I've always done it. And when I stop, I don't have to like stop and go to the woods. Or if I just stop and, kind of like breathe, this little voice in the back of my head starts saying, why don't you try this? And just listen, because I think we are so much more conscious now than we used to be. And that little voice is a little bit louder than it used to be. So I find when I'm hitting wall after wall after wall, it's because I'm in that mode of, I'm going to get this done. This is what my purpose is, and blah, 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 instead of just flowing, listening, and taking action when it's appropriate. You can tell when you're in the flow and when you're not. I mean, those walls just hurt my forehead. I have scabs on my forehead.
I seem to hit them with my chin.
Yeah, I'm banging against the walls. Anyway, that was just in case that helps, because it's still happening to me. Last week, for about 2 days, everything went perfect. It was amazing. I went, okay, keep doing this, Pat. Keep doing whatever you're doing. Get out of your own way.
Well done for managing it for 2 days. That's fantastic.
I think it was somebody showing me how easy it could be if I would get out of the way.
I agree. And it is a feeling, that feeling of being in the flow. When you're in the flow, the obstacles that present themselves are not obstacles. They're not these mountains. They are these, waves that we just kind of bob around and bob over. So I think we need to also look at, what does it feel like to be in the flow? And maybe, I always think of things like we need to imprint in ourselves what certain ways of being feel like, so that we can remember them. So if we look back in our life and think, okay, when was I in the flow? What did it feel like to be in the flow? And I often look back to my early 20s, and I was quite driven in a very corporate way in my early 20s, but things just happen, and I'd put my mind to it, and I was be like, I'm going to get that job, and I'm going to do this thing, and the next minute it would just happen and happen, and there was no obstacles in the way. It just moved forward. And I keep looking back at that time and I'm thinking, what was I doing differently then to what I'm doing now? What is the difference in? And part of it is that I had this total belief that whatever I put my mind to, I would do, or I could do. And maybe age kind of chips away at that belief. And maybe that's also part of what, Anita, for you, what it's about, is that this belief that you can do what you need to be doing. And then, there's also another thing. I keep hearing this word, procrastination. In healing processes, there is, I wish I had my book. Anyway, I'll see if I can find it and send it. But in healing processes, there are certain ways of doing, how we do things. So when we are engaging in a healing process, we are looking at our situation, we're looking at our life, we're looking what is arising in the moment. And we're observing it and we're seeing it and we're seeing, this is an issue, or this is a problem, or this is something this is a wound that needs to be healed. There's a part of us that kind of looks at it, observes it, sees it. And then there's another part, then the next step of that is to step away from it and to go, almost move in the opposite direction of it. And then we come back to it again and we look at it and we observe it and we get a deeper understanding of it. And then there are these other processes that happen. And one of the processes that can happen is this procrastination. And we often beat ourselves up about the fact that we procrastinate. And I mean, I could be the world's biggest procrastinator. If anyone catches me doing washing or hanging things up on the line or doing ironing, you've got to know I'm procrastinating something, because I hate those things. They're the worst. So, but what I've come to recognize is that there is a time and a place for procrastination, because at the same time, there is something deeply organic that is happening in our being, where there is some awareness that is growing, there is some insight that is developing, and there is a new, I suppose, a new perspective of whatever it is that we're grappling with that is happening. So Anita, what I'm trying to say to you is that perhaps there is something in your work that you haven't quite grasped yet. So focusing on the mundane task or these so-called challenges that are being placed in front of you is an opportunity for that part of your mind to percolate and to work through whatever it is that you're needing to, so that the epiphany can come and you will suddenly know this is the next thing that needs to happen. I hope that makes sense. Thanks, Pat. I think I am trying to learn how to be conscious enough to stay in the flow consistently, connected consistently. Perhaps that is bringing heaven to earth. I agree. Jennifer, yes. Is it possible that being in the flow means we are disentangled from specific outcomes? Yes, definitely. Not attached to a specific outcome. We just let things happen and the flow happen. Oh, Nancy, could have a master's degree in procrastination. Yeah, me too. We probably went to the same university in that one. Fiona, whenever I've been blocked to do something, there's always been a reason. Yes, I agree. Something comes up that makes me change direction. Yes, exactly. I agree. I think, I think this flow is, and being unattached to specific outcomes is key. And that's a hard one, especially when we're being conditioned to have goals and dreams and hopes for a future. Now all of a sudden we've got to undo all of that and say, okay, now we've got to be in the moment and we've got to focus on what is happening right now, and to go with that and let it take us in a direction that perhaps we haven't considered. And that can be hard for us that have, again, that controlling aspect of the masculine is the part that needs to know what the outcome is, that needs to know this is the step that I need to take me to that place that I need to go, I want to go. And that is the masculine energy that is guided by the ego, not by the soul. The masculine energy that is guided by the soul is the part of us that allows what needs to emerge in the moment and to take action on that right now, not because it's going to take us in a particular direction, but because it is what we are being guided to do right now. Pat, yes, when I release outcome, it always turns out better than I could imagine. I agree. Lorraine, we can still hold the intention for things in our life, but just let go of what it looks like. Let go of the picture that we've created. Yes, I agree. I think it's also important to recognize that we are, everything is changing, and change is positive. It is always positive. It is never negative. And we need to remember that. And also that as we go through the massive changes that we're going through, as the world goes through the massive change that it is going through, what we envisioned for our life, or what we thought, or the direction that we thought our life was going to take, may not take that direction. It may not come to pass. So we do have to kind of stand, I suppose, stand at the edge of a kind of a new life and a new reality and a new earth, kind of looking at things and saying, well, there's nothing here yet. We're going to have to step forward, and we're going to have to bring it into form. And that's where we bring that masculine energy. But if our masculine energy is still caught up in the ego, then what we are going to try and create is what we've just left in the past. And that is where we're going to be blocked, and where we are really going to be challenged to. Because we're never going to be allowed to recreate what we are leaving behind. It is that's it. It's done. That part of our evolutionary growth is completed, and we are moving into a new time. And this is where the masculine energy and the feminine energy are going to be working together to create reality. That is what co-creation means. The co-creation of our masculine and our feminine, and the co-creation of our human self and our soul self. Those four aspects of us are going to be working together to create a new life and a new reality and this new earth that we're stepping into. It's not one energy or the other. So if we start to think that, okay, now the feminine's coming into her power, and the feminine's going to step forward, and the feminine is going to take control, and no, just no. It doesn't work like that. That again is working with old energy. That is working with the past and how we created things in the past. This is about working with the masculine and feminine together to create. Yes, Jennifer, thanks. Such a helpful vision of soul level masculine energy. Yeah. And then Nancy, then it is managing disappointment while continuing to have faith that all things happen as our soul needs. Exactly. And I think that we must also remember that the world is, I think there's going to be a lot more chaos. I think things are going to get a lot more dramatic in the next couple of months, certainly leading up to the elections in the US. I think it's going to be mad. And I think what we've got to do is maintain our own perspective, which is an internal perspective. Don't get caught up in the drama that exists in the world, because that'll take us into that space of fear. We need to remember that there is purpose in that collapse. There is purpose in everything that is happening, even if we cannot see what that purpose is. We must understand that on a government level, everything is exactly as it should be, even though we might think it's completely nuts. I live in a country where our president will do he doesn't do news conferences because he doesn't like the questions, apparently. So he does a live broadcast of a message every couple of weeks, and even has the audacity to talk about the corruption that happens in our government and tell us all basically to stop being naughty school children. But nothing's done about the corruption in the government, not one arrest, nothing. So it's all over the world. We just, we have to focus on our own lives and what we are here to do, and let that madness happen. And again, it's part of the collapse of that old patriarchal masculine structure and form, and it's got to fall. it's got to fall. I actually had a conversation with my eldest daughter the other day about I can't even remember how we got onto the conversation, but we were talking about how men are often seen as how different men are, certainly in my generation in comparison to her generation. So I was saying, well, what happens in your generation? In my generation, lots of men have managed to get away with a lot of stuff, and she said, no. And she said it's a campaign called Call Your Friends Out. So anyone who does something or says something that is inappropriate or not okay, their friends are expected to call them out. And she said they do over and over and over again. So I thought, sure, at least there's one. This next generation seems to be getting a few things right in that regard. They really are keeping an eye on each other and how they are, how conscious or unconscious they are being. So that was nice to know and nice to see. Okay, anything else anyone else would like to share? The one thing about the masculine and feminine that I'd also like to share with you is, if you look at it from an energetic perspective, we are raising the vibration of the masculine and feminine energies within ourselves and therefore in the world around us. So how we have to do that is we do have to see where in ourselves there is a lower frequency in the masculine and feminine, and where is there confusion between what these two energies do and how they operate. So it is, for some people, a good idea to do some research as to what is masculine and what is feminine. What are those two? What is the difference between those two energies, and how do they complement each other? Because we almost need to redefine those energies within ourselves, redefine what the male is, redefine what the female is within us. And as we do that in ourselves, so it starts to reflect in the external world. As we shift our own vibration, so we are able to shift the vibration of everyone else around us. I mean, I was always fascinated. I used to teach meditation, and I was always fascinated about the ability that there are these machines that can measure the frequency of energy and how far that energy field expands outwards. And when you are in perfect balance, your energy field can expand up to 5 kilometers around you in diameter. So if you are holding a frequency of compassion, probably the highest form of love, you will influence your environment for 5 kilometers in diameter around you, and you will raise the vibration of every single person in that diameter. So remember that next time you feel that it's all hopeless. Anita, yes, can feel that so clearly when I'm in that vibration. Yeah. Okay. So if no one's got anything else to share, maybe we can head into doing some meditation. I'm hoping this week will be a good one. I need it. Okay. So when you're ready, just get yourself comfy. Okay. So closing your eyes, draw your awareness to your breath, and just take a couple of deep breaths. And with these deep breaths, bringing your awareness into the moment, into the presence of this moment. And allow yourself to settle into this time, allowing your body to let go, to relax. Allow your mind to calm. And just let go of any tension. Just feel any tightness in your body and allow it to relax. Let your shoulders drop. And allow yourself to breathe in and out of your nose. And rest the tip of your tongue behind your front teeth. This allows your jaw to relax. And helps to facilitate a connection and an opening in the pituitary. Now focus your awareness on your crown, the top of your head. And imagine or feel a beautiful golden light that begins to pour in through the crown of your head. And allow this beautiful golden light to wash throughout your entire body and being. allowing it to cleanse, to clear, and to wash away all negative energies. Feel those energies being dissolved and washed away and cleansed and cleared away by this beautiful golden light. Feel your energy becoming lighter and brighter as it is cleansed and cleared of all the density and heaviness of the week. You may feel like a weight is being lifted from your shoulders. Feel the fear being dissolved by this beautiful golden light that just pours continuously in through the crown of your head. Feel the sadness dissolving. The anger and the frustration, allowing it to be dissolved. And allow yourself to let go of all that is not yours. Let go of any energy that is not your own. Let go of any thoughts that are not your own. Let go of any feelings that are not your own. And allow yourself to relax into your own energy. And as you do so, call back all your energy that you have willingly or inadvertently given away. Feel this energy moving back towards you. To be reintegrated. And feel your energy field expanding as it does. And just become aware of the equal flow of energy between your masculine and feminine energies, represented by the left and the right hand side of your body. The left being the feminine, the right being the masculine. If there is any imbalance, become aware of that imbalance now. Which side of your body is it? Where on your body is it? And now allow yourself to focus on your crown again. And imagine or feel or sense a beautiful green energy as it begins to move through the crown to fill your entire body and being. And allow this green energy to move into all the spaces and all the places within your body and being that are in need of healing, that are in need of rejuvenation, that need to be restored or recharged. Just allow this beautiful green energy to flow in and around your body and being. feeding you, restoring you, and healing you. And now allow yourself to feel or imagine a beautiful pink, and allow this pink to move in through the crown of your head and washing throughout your entire body and being. And allow this pink to reconnect you with the energy of love and compassion and peace. And as these energies of love and compassion and peace are awoken within you, allow them to restore your faith and your trust in the divine plan for your life and the divine plan for this earth. Allow yourself to remember that everything that is occurring now is divinely orchestrated and ultimately for the highest good of all who exist on this planet at this time. And allow yourself to relax into that knowing. Allow yourself to surrender into that knowing. Allow yourself to feel the peace that comes with letting go. With letting go of the need to control. The need to hold it all together. The need to make it right. And just allow yourself to move into the flow. Remember what it feels like to be in the flow. And just maintaining that sense of peace, calm, that feeling of being in the flow. Draw your awareness back into this time and into the space that we've created together. Taking a few deep breaths. Moving back into your physical form, your body. Your fingers and your toes. And open your eyes when you're ready. That felt good. That felt really good. I haven't felt that kind of feeling in meditation for a long time. So thank you, everyone. Yeah, anyone have any interesting feelings in their left or right hand side?
I visualized my right side, the feminine side, is blue, and
Yeah.
the masculine was white. And what was quite strange is I could see that the head was completely masculine, and just a little bit of the side was the blue. And I sort of made it move across and tried to halve it. It's the only way I could visualize. And then the white side actually went red, and then I had this sort of blend of purple in the middle. It was quite strange, but it was
Beautiful.
a way of trying to balance the colors together to get the equilibrium. That was good.
Beautiful. Yeah, interesting to see.
I had a interesting experience. I noticed that when I tipped my head, I just had this notion to tip my head to the right toward the masculine, and I realized as I did that, I was opening the feminine on the left. And it was a kind of opening and allowing and vulnerability here. And then of course I did it on this side too. And it was really amazing.
Oh, good.
So thank you. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's interesting when we can actually work with our body to feel where the imbalance is and then correct it, because we've got to remember physically we carry these energies as well. And if we can remember that the physical body is a manifestation of the energetic body, we can work with the physical to start to see where the shifts are that are needed, and then help to create them on an energetic level. Will help them happen on a physical level too. I always like to work with, when I'm doing energetic work with people, it's my question. One of my questions is always, what's going on for you physically? Are there aches and pains? Do you have a stiff neck or a sore jaw or a sore lower back or a sore knee? Or because they're always indications of where there could be an imbalance or a stuckness in the energy. And if we can work with that stuckness or that imbalance, then we can start to shift things quite dramatically.
Yeah, I felt the you can hear me, yes?
Again?
Where everything's happening in my neck at the moment. So on the right side, exactly the masculine, as usual with me. But during it, when we brought in that green, it was just amazing. It was just this sort of like a spring leaf green that just flooded that area. And then I sort of asked that green to go to the feminine. So it was like, that's how it balanced. It took it away from the masculine, but then actually gave clean, healed energy into the feminine. And as it did that, the masculine side almost like put its arms around my feminine side and said, I'm here, I'm going to support you, which was quite beautiful. It's sort of, most of the time I almost think of my feminine as supporting and embracing, and not often the masculine. So that was quite lovely.
And I think it's important to remember the masculine's role is to support.
Exactly.
Again, I think it's that going back to what I said earlier about how we almost need to define for ourselves what the masculine and feminine energies actually are, the qualities of what those energies are, what they carry, and how they can work together. I think a lot of us are confused about that. We think that masculine qualities are actually feminine qualities and feminine qualities are actually masculine qualities.
Exactly, yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. It's always such a pleasure to work with you. Oh yeah, it's Shelley. Yes, she began visualizing figure eights and following them with eyes as they were closed. Now, that figure of eight is something that's come up quite a few times for me this week. I think it has something to do with the blending or the unifying of the masculine and feminine energies. So interesting that that would have come up today. Okay, well, I hope and I wish you all a good week. Remember not to get tangled up in the challenges of what's out there and what's happening. Focus on being zen in you. Oh, nice. Nancy, I hope you're having a beautiful vacation. Are you staying, is it a home station or are you going away?
I'm going to, I went up yesterday to New Hampshire, my friend has a cottage, so I'm going to go back and forth because it's only a couple hours away. Spend part of it here, part up there.
Good, good. I hope you enjoy that.
Thanks.
You deserve it. You need it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pat. See you guys all next week and have a fantastic, fantastic week. I look forward to chatting to you all next Sunday.
Bye, everyone.